Hey, it's the Fort Worth Playboy.
And my Playboys Bunny.
And welcome to our podcast where we discuss
Or
pickup.
our podcast.
Our podcast. 99% of the time see a difference in her attitude and in the momentum of the interactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just more pliable. I would mentally say this to myself, like before I was going to meet somebody up for the first date. She's been divorced. She's probably been on a bunch of shitty dates. She's not having a good time. She had a shit day at work.
Absolutely.
I'm going to make goddamn sure she has a good time.
Yeah.
Hello. Welcome to the Bunny Interviews. Fort Worth just said, I haven't even watched this intro. That's pretty good. Welcome. I know no one's even going to be paying attention to me in this interview because everybody's like, holy shit, there's Fort Worth Playboy.
So that's what he looks like. They've seen some of me. They've heard me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
And now your glasses are
They're
fogging
fogging
up.
up.
It's kind of hot in here. Anyway, for those of you who do not know who this sexy man is, this is the Fort Worth Playboy. More of you guys know him than know me, so that's okay. I love that you're here. So he's my man. He's a dating and attraction expert and a fitness pro. Did you ever think that you would ever be a dating and relationship expert?
I didn't until probably like 2 years into like learning game.
Yeah.
And when I was reading CHATEAU, HEARTISTE, which, if anybody kind of follows, that's when I started thinking, I thought, somebody kind of like needs to get this out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and then everything came together over time.
Well, and you've had a lot of like friends come to you for advice over the decades. I mean, it's like even still your best friend just called yesterday and was like, I'm dealing with this. And he doesn't even know we do this.
No, that's funny.
He was like, what do I do about this? Or like when he's had, when your friends have had kind of girl problems or sex issues or things like that, they always come to you. So it's like you're a natural.
I think that once we kind of like looked at the background,
Yeah.
a lot of things contributed to me being here eventually.
Yeah.
Getting into weightlifting early on, being in organized sports,
Yeah.
being social, being in a fraternity, bouncing at clubs, being exposed to like the singles,
Oh, yeah.
all these things that culminate, I've been married for 12 years at one point,
Yeah.
So I've seen like almost everything you can possibly see,
Exactly.
at some point. So it all kind of came together.
Well, and let's just jump into that. So, first of all, what were you like as a teenager? But in that vein, how much of what you know now and your success with women over the decades have you think, what do you think was more you being a natural? How much was like being in the right environments, being around people who were also naturals and good with girls? And how much of it was just being exposed to a lot of, through jobs and whatnot, a lot of fucking girls. A lot of fucking girls who were down to fuck.
I think it was a combination of all three factors all coming together over time.
Yeah.
Like I said, I started lifting weights like when I was 14. And,
Yeah.
bodybuilding, that kind of thing, kind of like makes you more approachable in a certain sense, and you're more social. And then getting into college, getting into a fraternity, which was, not my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But, and just literally like, just always being comfortable and having a drive to meet a lot of girls, you know what I mean? And then being in the right environments. I mean, I just worked at a club in the winter.
Yeah.
I worked at a huge water park in the summer, and it's not. And then
And by
working as a
summer, you mean like
lifeguard.
9 or 10 months.
Yeah, exactly. and like working as a lifeguard, it's not about like the public; it's your coworkers that you hook up with every night. You're at a party, and so that's going on for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And then I'm still training and working in gyms.
Yeah.
So a lot of it all came together, and literally like I had to repeat my senior year.
Because you were so busy fucking too much.
I was lifting weights and chasing girls, and that's it.
I love it.
Then it just came together. And then over time, through my 20s, being in the gym business, you just meet a lot of girls.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that's and I think that's pretty much it. It all kind of came together. And my dad was very charismatic and personable.
Yes.
And that has a lot to do with it. I think your genetics, giving your social. But I didn't know what game was. And so everything up until after I was divorced was pure luck.
Right.
And bringing everything together.
Which was about 10 years ago.
Yeah. And I had no idea what was going on. Then after I got divorced, I was very much into self-improvement, having built a couple businesses. And when you do it on your own without family money, you have to do a lot of like mental game. You have to like improve your brain. And I stumbled on RSD, which is, Tyler, for self-improvement. I thought, wow, and he was talking about running game on girls, but I wasn't that interested in that. You know what I mean? I was just like, yeah, okay. But he had a lot of self-improvement. And then I stumbled on CHATEAU HEARTISTE.
Yeah.
And started reading that like an hour a night for a couple of years, and literally just started putting that into play. And it's like they say, the first time you run game on a girl, just try anything, like slow text, or you don't use punctuation, or, you slow down your movements.
Yeah.
Just posture, anything. And it works. You're like, holy shit.
Well, and like we talk about on our podcast a lot, the things that you then were learning, you go, oh my God, 20 years ago, this was working on,
That's how game is a real thing. Or like red pill, like the stuff that Rollo teaches.
Yeah.
If you look at your history, you'll be like, oh, that's why she didn't like me. Like one girl that I chased, she knew that I liked her. She had no interest in me, because girls that know you like them don't like you.
Or she probably had interest in you, but until you
crushed it. Exactly. We talked about that in another podcast.
It's one of our most popular episodes.
And for a lot of guys, they go, I never understood why she broke up. And, you look back and you're like, kissing her ass too much, being where she needs you to be all the time. Just no game.
Yeah.
And girls just shut down. They don't know what they're doing either. We've talked about that. But game works, and you can look at your history and you go, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, back up, because I know that you kind of came out of the gate. Like, there are guys, I think, who, number one, wait till later in life to start having sex. There are guys who have started having sex at a pretty early age, or a pretty normal age, I would say. And of the guys who start at a normal age, like mid to late teens, let's say, there are guys who then just are having sex with one girl, like my boyfriend was. And there are guys who then are like fucking their way around the neighborhood.
Exactly.
So talk about the Fort Worth Playboy as a teenager. When you discovered sex, like, what were you like?
Off and right. And I had a high interest, I'd read like medical books. You know what I mean? I was like, I can even tell you, like, I can remember being in the library, and I like sneaking over to the anatomy books. You know what I mean? And this is like, I'm 12, 13.
Yeah.
And then at about 14, 15, I just had a high interest.
Sure.
And it's funny because, like, in this world, if you're even watching this, you're in the top 20% at least.
At least.
Because most guys aren't interested in seduction, attraction, girls, or even really sex.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, but there's a subset of people that are into it, or pursue it. Just naturally, you have a high sex drive and an interest in women.
Yeah.
And it just took off from there. I just literally, like, the first year, you don't realize you had sex like 15, 20 people, just girls your own age.
Right.
So you just look back. And it's kind of like I said about the teachers. If you slept with somebody's mom or a teacher or an authority figure when you're in your teens, you're probably a natural.
Right.
Yeah. And guys go, yeah, that's pretty much how it happened.
Is there anything written about you in any bathroom walls in any public areas that you're aware of?
You mean like when my sister went into the restroom and she saw my name and she is a good fuck, and I was like, that's good. And I was like 17.
I'm sure she was so proud.
She was so proud.
At
And
the movie theater,
yeah,
right?
she told me, she goes, "You won't believe what I saw today."
I love it.
I know. It's pretty funny.
That is hilarious.
And I've probably told like 3 people that story.
Well, now you
And
told
now
you told lots of other people that story. You're welcome.
And I don't know what the questions are, just so you know.
Yeah, no.
I had to come in here blind, just like anybody else that's being interviewed,
Well,
you know, to a
yeah.
certain extent.
Actually, you probably know less than anyone else I've interviewed.
That's
so far.
true.
But like you said, we kind of have this conversation. I mean, he said this morning, he was like, I feel like we've already done this.
Yeah.
Because of our podcast, because, we just are always talking.
We're always talking about this.
Yeah,
we
really are.
This is complete immersion. This is what we do 24/7. And it's not, we don't go to work and then just turn it off. And I was that way about fitness.
Yeah.
Or it's the first thing, it's the only thing other than fitness that ever really totally encompasses my brain.
Right.
It's on all the time.
Exactly.
So,
How did you find Chateau Heartiste? Because when you found his work, it was a blog.
and he was still active.
Yeah.
And,
And not in the political stuff.
No. It was kind of sort of moving that way. But I'm sure I was just clicking and somebody mentioned it.
Yeah.
And then I went, and it was unique writing. The man can write.
He has an incredible style.
And I liked his writing. And like I said, the first couple weeks, I literally would just like read until I found a word that I didn't understand, like game or, red pill, keno, anything that is truly game, our language. I didn't know what it was, and I'd have to go look it up.
Yeah.
And then come back. And it took a year probably for everything to kind of like come together. Does that make sense? Where everything kind of like interlocks and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
And I think guys nowadays, we're better at teaching it because, like Chateau Heartiste is kind of like pieced together.
Right.
There's no real system there.
Right.
But when you look at a system, like when we put a dating system or
Yeah.
how to build a rotation, it's truly a system. And you can learn game, I say, in like 6 months or less.
Yeah.
And be a pretty good practitioner.
I think that that's one of the good things about people like you who have kind of condensed a lot of information from a lot of different sources into here.
Yeah.
Here is a digestible source
Exactly.
for you to not have to reinvent the wheel every time.
And everything evolves like that.
Yeah.
You present a product or you present something, and then people go, I need a solution to this before I get there.
Yeah.
Or this is causing this problem. I need a solution. Because like we got good at like getting people online dates.
Yeah.
And then getting them dates and getting them laid. And now they've got too many girls. So now you have to build a rotation
Yeah.
where everybody's like, cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where we like solve a problem that's going to arise.
Yeah.
And that's where you get guys that are like, I've got 2 or 3 girls. I don't know what to do. I like them all equally. So you give them some options.
I love it. Is your Chateau book, it's your bestseller? I mean, you compiled.
I consider it the anchor.
Yeah.
Everything else, again, it's game.
Yeah.
Everything else is a derivative, but it's not specific. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Go ahead. It's the best of his stuff that I think.
It is. Well, and I think that's where you did such a good job of putting the best of Chateau Heartiste book together.
Exactly.
Which is available in the description box. But because you truly went through, you already were familiar with all of his articles.
Right.
I mean, you've read and reread over the decade his stuff. And then you said, what is the most universally applicable to the most men? And then you put that into one book.
And then number 2. And when I was reading it, I already started getting an inkling that it was important.
Yeah.
So I was already like cutting and pasting articles and pulling them down. And those really, even though I started pulling everything down, because I thought this isn't going to last forever.
And you were right.
Yeah, and it was gone one day. those articles that I first pulled down, the first time you go, yeah, yeah. Those are the ones that I put in the book, the first round.
Sure.
They just seem.
If they jumped out at you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
For sure. I love it. What is your best-selling book of the ones that, or what is a better question? What of the books that you've written that you've got available? Which ones do you think are the most universally applicable?
Most universally applicable will be how to build your dating system.
Yeah.
And I think it accelerates guys that are
Yeah.
like ready to get into the game. And it gives them structure. And if you've ever lifted weights, you realize that, there are routines. You go to the gym. It's the same thing every day. You kind of like know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you get stronger, through a routine.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did with the dating system, was show you to where you can build like a dating routine and you can get better at it. And if something's not working for you, you can throw it out,
Exactly.
So I think it works, and it works with guys. Guys can understand it.
Well, and I can attest to it because I literally went on the perfect first date.
Perfect.
And I had no idea that it had been carefully orchestrated over years. Like 2 or 3 years that you were like, so how did your, what are you laughing?
I'm just laughing because let's see where this goes.
How did your initial like dating system start like 3 or so years before I met you? And how did it slowly evolve? Like, what were the main sources, like mystery? I mean, I know that there were a couple of like those kinds of sources.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of built the initial like, oh, I should do this instead of.
Well, that's where I got the whole idea of like a system was from Mystery Method.
Yeah.
He has a system, and he does a lot of like stopping them on the streets and dating.
Yeah, you're not like a pickup guy.
No, I mean, I'm in Texas. Where am I going to stop somebody?
Yeah.
Without
them being like.
Yeah,
macing
me, shooting me. That's right.
Shooting you.
Or just saying, sir, you're weirding me out.
Yeah.
Just
please quit talking to my daughter.
Yeah, it's London, New York City.
Yeah.
Certain environments are inviting to
We've
that.
got some clients even in Austin who are good at dating.
Exactly.
It's like, that is incredible.
Fort Worth doesn't have a lot of street life.
No.
Malls don't exist.
But we live where
Yeah,
there's the most probably.
exactly. And even that would be weird because people come in, they don't live here.
No.
They drive in and visit, and then they go back to the suburbs.
So how did your personal system evolve? Like, what kind of things changed? Because I know that like at one point in your system, you played darts, and you and I didn't play darts.
And then they close that place. So
Yeah.
you have to adapt. I did what most guys do in the beginning, kind of like, when we talk about like online dating. I
Yeah.
remember my first thought is what most guys that are like newly divorced, they're in their 40s or 50s, they're like, how the hell do I date online? Because
Yeah.
when you hear that, you're like, I've got to like date them online. They don't realize it's just like you meet them, get them off the app, get them in person. Then it's a normal date,
It's
just
a
like you've
tiny
ever
little
had. Yeah.
tool in the
Yeah.
wheel.
Well, I was still trying to like take girls to like, what would you say, original experiences or a different place in
Yeah.
time. And then I thought about the routines. Like, if I have a routine, I can improve on it.
Right.
Because I was getting mixed results.
Sure.
And that's when I started kind of like hitting the same 3 clubs.
Which 2 of the 3 of ours have now closed too.
Exactly. And it's funny, like you said, I had a system where I go to one place, we'd start drinking that. Hey, you want to go play darts? Yeah. And then I thought, well, let's play pool. And then there's like a girl that I took out, and she and I, neither of us could play pool.
Yeah.
And it sucked. It
Yeah.
killed the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we could not get the game over with so we could move on.
Yeah.
And so that's when I took pool out.
Which I can attest to, because about a year ago we took all the
Yeah.
kids, and we were playing pool while they were doing
We're like,
everything
this
else.
game's never going to end.
We got our money's worth out of
Yeah.
those pool games
That's pretty
because
funny.
we cannot play pool.
Exactly. So you want to test things
Yeah.
and see what works for you.
Yeah.
And, within your budget, within your neighborhood, within
Sure.
what your comfort zone. Because the more comfortable you are, the better,
Oh,
it'll be,
yeah.
I think.
Oh, yeah.
And we talked about that. And even in there, like, I was self-conscious going back into the same place
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Being
And then you
too
realize,
familiar.
yeah, then you realize it's so rare that any man walks around. It's like you're the mayor of your neighborhood.
I love
Because
it.
people are saying hi to you. And girls never, everybody's anonymous now.
Yeah.
So there's a comfort for the girls that you're known. You know, when you walk in and people know you, and she's like, you know, how many girls do you bring here? Or they won't ask, but they'll ask you later.
Yeah.
Like, my God, how many women is he running?
You mean
know?
today?
Exactly. Exactly. That's funny. My brain is not firing. Just
Thankfully, I'm like your second brain.
that's right.
So what was there anything, what are some of the things that you tried in your system that were just like, they only made it like, well, like the pool, like what are there
Or
any
just
other,
like getting rid of dinner.
yeah,
You know, I learned that pretty. Again, you don't do dinner one. It's not cost or time effective.
no,
Girls' tastes are different. You know,
Yeah.
like what they like. You're investing a lot of time and money on an unknown subject. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think I got this from like Black Dragon.
yeah,
You know, I think Caleb, I can't remember Caleb's last name right now off the top of my head, but he was like drinks only, and he had a 1 and 2 date system where
right,
he goes in, kind of no more than an hour, your first date, and 1 or 2 drinks, not more than that, and get to know them
Yeah.
and see if they have potential. And again, I learned that drinks only works because if you have to bail or if it's bad, you're
Sure.
out of there.
yeah,
But if it's good, you have flexibility.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But dinner, you're stuck and everybody suffers. So
Well, and especially with dinner, you know, some nights you go and you may go to the same restaurant every time. Some nights it may take 45 minutes for you to get your food once you've ordered, and sometimes it's 15.
Yeah.
There's no predictability there. So you've got you and a date just getting hungrier and hungrier, running out of things to randomly talk
and
about.
she has a sitter and she's got to get home.
Ah,
But the caveat too is if, you know, we got a couple clients that dinner works for them.
yeah,
They close girls weekly off of dinner. Don't change it. If
Yeah.
it works for you,
if it's working.
if it's working, you don't touch it.
Yeah.
You know, these are just suggestions of my job. I realized earlier on is to give guys the best information that works across the board,
Right.
and will give them the highest chances of closing. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
We definitely do a lot of like speaking in generalization.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't drink, or you know you've closed on coffee dates in the middle of the day, you don't change shit. You just stick with that.
Man,
you
there are
know?
some people who can close coffee dates.
I don't know
know how.
I did a couple times. I was like, this is awkward.
Well,
And I
you
don't
also
drink
don't drink coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a weirdo. He's just a weirdo. So, with pre-game routines, with pre-date routines, like what do you think the most tried and true kind of, because we talk about how critical it is to have like a pre-date routine,
Yes, it's just
But-
like going into a game.
but I think a lot of people just kind of fly by the seat of their pants, or just get ready, or just like go after work and like spray cologne on themselves in the truck.
Yeah.
Like, so what do you tell me
I
about?
think I got it from the G Manifesto. He had a
Perfect.
pre-night out, and it was like stuff like open ocean swim. You know, he'd sleep with cucumbers on his eyes. He'd take a vampire nap. I mean, it was great stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where I thought, well, you know, I like to, everybody does something physical. He'd shadow box. I mean, it was good stuff.
Yeah.
I couldn't use it, but it gave me a structure, you know, of what to do. So mentally you're fresh, physically you feel good. You know, I train, come home, shower, you know, just kind of like do this. And no matter how crazy or bad the day was, it wouldn't affect after that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because a lot of guys, they'll come straight from work and they're still wearing what they wore to work and they're carrying the burdens of the day.
Yeah.
And it's shit.
You
know?
need a transition period
Exactly.
to move from work to
Yeah,
play.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on pre-date masturbation?
If you're having trouble with, what do you say, early ejaculation,
Yeah.
I think it'll take the edge off. And this is old school stuff.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is like, you figure this out.
But
when
it's
you're a
something
teenager.
that I get asked even in the DMs pretty
Oh,
frequently.
that's funny. They don't ask me that. I don't get that, but that's funny, which is understandable. See, that's where like guys will ask. There are things that Bunny can answer that guys are just not going to ask a guy.
Yeah.
They're just not, That's funny. Did I answer that completely? Yes. If you have a problem with like coming fast,
Yeah.
it gives guys a little, and then you go out on a day, it's been 3-4 hours,
Yeah.
and you're ready to go again.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
last a little bit longer.
Yeah.
That's my suggestion if somebody's running into that problem. Otherwise, guys that know themselves, they're good.
Yeah.
With or without.
Exactly.
It's funny.
Because there are so many, there are a lot of people in the dating and relationship space, let's say, specifically on Twitter, because that's kind of our primary
yeah.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
But elsewhere as well, that do, I think from the outside, we all look kind of similar. But I think everyone kind of has their niche or their specialties. What do you think makes you and or our little team unique?
In your area, well, one, you're a female and you've outlasted everybody that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've talked about that. And like, I think it was Pat Stedman that coined the term attraction expert.
Yeah.
That's genius. That's great because that's what you do. You help guys become more attractive to women.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I never really think about like the red pill. I like to convey game. You know what I mean? Game.
You're good at it.
Yeah, and I like to say that one, narrow path because, the politics or like just everything else that the other guys can cover.
Yeah.
It's not that interesting to me. I'm not an expert in it.
Right.
But I know this one thing really well.
Yeah.
Running game and attraction. And so we complement each other.
Yeah.
But we don't really get into the what would you say? Like men's rights. We understand that guys kind of take a wash in divorce courts.
Right.
But it's not anything we're strong at.
Right.
So we don't advise or we put them in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, just where you're at mentally in your likes and dislikes, some guys are better fit for it's just like any coaching.
Yeah.
It's like when you're working with a fitness coach. Guys that are going to mesh, sometimes they're not.
Yeah. Well, and I think that one of your strong suits, you're 55 years old, so you've got years, but you've also got experience.
Right.
You started having sex in your teens, so you've got a lot of years of experience in actual sex. You are a natural, as well as like going.
Game.
Yeah.
Learn
Learning.
charisma.
Yeah. Learning game and learning the skills. Plus, you've had a marriage. You have the family, all of these things. So it's like you can speak to a large swath of men in a variety of situations.
Right.
And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, it's experience.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons, there's a few reasons I stayed anonymous longer than you did.
Yeah.
And that we started anonymous,
Yeah.
And the original reason was Royce, who wrote CHATEAU HEARTISTE, kept a very low profile.
Right.
And I didn't want people to project me onto what they were learning. Like, he's tall, I'm short, it won't work. Or he's older, I'm younger, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Anything that could throw the message off.
Right.
And
right.
then we ran into because
then
this
we ran
stuff,
into legal problems.
this stuff doesn't set well with girls in general.
Yeah.
Even though they enjoy the outcome,
Yeah.
And the general public.
Right.
They're kind of hostile to it. They don't understand it, and that's okay. And again, most men, they think that being able to like go out and meet a girl and move her from stranger to in your bed within a few hours in a system.
Yeah.
It's like a neat party trip.
Right.
They would rather go bass fishing. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
hunting or gamble.
Yeah.
Most guys, it's just not that interesting to them.
Right.
But for us, it's infinitely interesting.
Yeah.
It's just, you don't ever get bored with it.
So, and I agree. And I want to pinpoint especially what you said about, I think people tend to get lost. They sometimes lose the message because of what they're seeing.
The messenger.
Yeah.
The messenger.
Yeah. So why now?
Probably because this has evolved.
Yeah.
We've done this about 5 years.
Yeah, at least.
And at a certain point, you have to go the next level.
Yeah.
And we're not as vulnerable. My children are older. I mean,
they
5
all
years.
unfortunately know about it.
Yeah.
You know, all of our
5 years.
families know.
5 years ago, some were like truly children,
Yeah,
and now they're all at least in their teens.
yeah,
And most of it was like, I think the legal ramifications right off the bat, running into that,
right.
just like put a full stop to everything.
Well, yeah, because I mean that's when I stopped doing, because
Exactly.
I was doing videos and stuff early because everybody always assumed that I was a man. So every day I was having to like
Which is crazy when you
take.
think.
I know I was like having to take pictures, you know, of just like me from here down
Yeah.
and stuff like that, you know, to kind of indicate that I was a female writing this.
Exactly. And you know, my business, it only, you know, I've been in business like 17, going on 18 years. It always feels like 20. But
Yeah.
it's been about 18 years. I was sensitive to that because people will cancel you out if they don't like you.
Right.
None of this is local anymore. You know what I mean? We have an outreach, you know,
Yeah.
off the internet. But I've seen where like local business owners say something on the internet in some realm, be it political or racist
yeah.
or anything, and they get canceled out because people start hitting their brick and mortar business with
Right.
bad reviews that have nothing to do, but it just destroys their business.
Right.
And you know, you can't risk that when you're paying child support and alimony and supporting other people. You know, you can't gamble that.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit more room to maneuver, and people 5 years later don't really care that much.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, if they haven't figured it out yet.
Well, and like we talk about, I mean, because we are spent, you know, together like 23 hours a day.
Exactly.
And our clients see us 23, I mean, always together. And so we always say that like, no one would be surprised that we talk about sex on the internet.
No one would be surprised you talk about sex on the internet. I would be shocked.
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 She does, but I don't.
Let's talk about negging since you just brought that
That's
up.
funny.
Because I would bet that probably 85% of our conversation, and we talk constantly, is you bullshitting or giving some kind of neg.
You give me so much to work with.
Oh, whatever.
What'd you spend, $8,000 on last year?
It was $4,000 and it was pizza.
Exactly. She ordered so much Domino's. She's like, Domino's is emailing me 4 times a day. I go,
It's so
baby,
good.
you buy $50, $60 worth of pizza every week. You're like a VIP.
It was so good.
I know. Then she started doing the math.
One of my lunch dates with Bunny, I'm going to have to order pizza.
That's funny.
It sounds so good right now.
Sure
Can we
thing.
order pizza now?
That's good. For you, too.
Now I'm distracted thinking about pizza. What were we just talking about?
Negging.
Nagging. Okay, so like there was the night, literally in the dead of night, we woke up and I was just like going to the restroom or whatever, you know, people our age do in the middle of the night when one's asleep. And literally I thought he was still asleep. And you said, "What's up, fatty?" Out of a dead sleep. Out of a dead sleep. Like you literally wake up negging.
Yeah. Well, and you give them nicknames.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about that, and I've done tweets about that.
And I think that people need to understand though, like the different levels. Like
It needs to
there's
be
some
the exact
great-
opposite.
yeah. So
Yeah.
talk to us about it. Because
It's-
I don't think that most people do this well.
Yeah. Well, there's negging, which is very limited. You know, it's for girls whose egos are so large.
Yeah.
You know, true negging, true old school. You know, you're meeting them for the first time,
Yeah.
and a man has talked to her every 30 seconds that day,
Yeah.
and every day of her life.
Oh,
Really,
yeah.
you have to. And a neg is not an insult. It's supposed to just cause a little bit of pattern interruption.
Yeah.
In a certain sense. You know, in the old school, it's not funny. Don't use it. It's like, hey, I like your shoes. My mom has the same pair. And then it's just enough to make him go, what the fuck is going on? You know, don't use that. I mean, have something better. There's better guys.
Right.
But it's just lame. But it's enough to like go, and you have to use it with girls whose egos are huge. And so you don't need it on like 6s, 7s, girls that are open to your invitation. It's really a pattern interrupt, and it's not supposed to be an insult. But teasing girls is something guys just do naturally. Yeah,
it's just funny.
You teasing them, giving them nicknames. Like if they're really good looking, call them Shrek. Just like, God. Look at you again.
What was my nickname?
Porn star Spice.
Because it started as Sporty Spice.
Yeah.
And then.
Because I really did. I thought I was going to go meet a middle class mom with an extra 10, 15 pounds, and it'd just be another night out. And she turned. She said, "Hey, I got to run to the restroom," and she jumped off the bar stool, and she's walking away, and she's out to here. She's a teeny tiny. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to have some of that. It was everything just started turning. I was like, oh, what? This whole thing just changed. Because you kind of get used to just hitting a single, hitting a single.
Going on the same date over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, oh.
Okay, so I think this is an important point. You are a creature of habit. From bodybuilding, literally you're still eating the same meals that you ate when you were 15.
Exactly.
You are definitely a creature of habit. What do you say to the guys who they don't want to go on the same date over and over and over again? How do they change it up to keep themselves?
That's a good question, because you do talk to people that are like, I can't ever eat chicken and rice ever again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never actually had that question. So
I'm such a good interviewer.
I don't think it would. I think they would just naturally move it around.
Yeah.
Because you got guys that'll take girls go-karting, then they'll go for hiking. It's just the guys that have a variety, they know themselves.
Yeah.
They don't ever get into a routine.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
That's what I would suggest.
But even just changing venues, you could still essentially run your routine.
Oh yeah.
Even if you were in a different location.
Yeah, brother, you're going to do this long enough sometimes for guys that are like, I don't ever get committed again. Your bar will close. Where we met the first time.
Yeah.
It's gone.
It's gone. It's a medical.
It's a minor emergency, everything else around
very
here.
Depressing.
And then we will drive around and things have closed that we went to, and so you start looking around, you're like, things have
the
changed.
place where we had our first kiss is all being demolished right
That's
now.
true. So that's 2 out of 3.
So frustrating.
But the second place is still there, and it's
going strong.
Reinvested.
Going strong.
We got 1 out of 3.
And we still go to it occasionally.
Exactly. That's funny.
The last time we weren't real pleased with the bartending, but
I do feel bad for guys that their favorite place gets shut down.
Yeah.
There's a place called Fred's that's for burgers and beer.
Yeah.
And they just moved, but guys are truly damn, I don't really like that place.
Well, it was a neighborhood staple for
That's true.
50 years.
Yeah. And
So-
guys like their routine.
And it looks like a shack. It looks like a shithole
Yeah,
from
they
the
built
outside.
everything around it.
Literally. It was the last man standing. So what about once you go on the initial date? I feel like the second step of your dating system, and I don't think you even covered this in your book, in your dating system book, but the second step, we went to, I know you sometimes do axe throwing, which I didn't do, but we went to Top Golf.
Top Golf's a good one, if you have one nearby.
Yeah. But I know that you had second phase dating rotation kind of spots.
Yeah. Once you start having sex regularly.
Yeah.
And
would this be more for girlfriend candidates? Because
pretty much.
You don't wine and dine fuck buddies.
Fuck buddies and friends with benefits, you don't take them out because then everybody starts getting confused.
Yeah.
But for girlfriend candidates, things that are active. And guys have their own. Guys will take girls to monster truck shows.
Sure.
Whatever you enjoy.
Exactly.
And just take her along. A lot of guys play golf. They'll
Yeah.
drag her along, let her drive.
Yeah.
Fill the liquor cabinet.
And it's a good way to kind of see them out in the wild too.
Yeah. At the end of the day, girls are going to pick up your habits, your hobbies, 99% of the time.
Yeah.
So they might as well get exposed to it early on.
Yeah.
To see if they fit in.
Absolutely.
You talk, oh, my wife, she doesn't like me hunting or whatever. You better find somebody that wants, because guys that hunt are gone
Yeah.
6 months out of the year.
Yeah.
So just
Oh,
drag
yeah.
her along.
Exactly.
And she doesn't like it, it's the wrong girl.
That's right. So then we had been dating probably 5 or 6 months. And it was when we were in Wisconsin. And one night we were getting ready and he says, what would you do to eliminate the other girls in my rotation?
Yeah. Yeah. What'd you say? You just pick them off one at a time?
No, I said I would just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. Because that's what happens is
Yeah.
it's a war of attrition. But most girls are going to stop you at some point, unless you have the frame of a fun guy.
Yeah.
You know, and they know where you're coming from and you're not serious about anything.
Yeah.
If you mess that up at about 10 to 12 weeks,
Yeah.
you'll get the what are we?
Right. Right.
You know, and that means you've messed. If you are only looking at running a rotation
Right.
and you're looking for casual, your early frame announcement, which is you're a casual guy, you like your freedom and you like to have fun, and you would be more than happy to have fun and have sex
Yeah.
on a regular basis. You don't say that, but
Yeah.
you know, you convey it through your actions,
Yeah.
and your manners and what you do with her. But you literally just won through attrition, which is how most girls do win out.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I came onto your scene, you had a girl who was like long distance. You had a social circle girl or two. You had some kind of regional fuck buddy-ish, girlfriend candidate-ish, girls. So, I mean, there were like 4 or 5 girls running through your rotation when I met up with you.
Well, I violated the first rule with you.
You did?
See you once a week.
Oh, okay, this is good.
That's
Yes.
the reason. Once a week as an adult, especially if you're dating women that are busy, whether they have careers, kids, or both, once a week is enough.
Yeah.
And it gives you time to see them over time, see them go
At
through
their
different.
best.
Yeah. You initially, it's at their best.
Yeah.
And it gives them time to kind of like, if they want to stick around, great. But that once a week, and even for guys, from my understanding, that are like looking for commitment straight off the bat,
Yeah.
starting off with that once a week, because it allows you to like see other girls, and it's way easier to choose one.
Yeah.
If you're comparing them, it's like driving a different car 3 days a week
Yeah.
that you're going to purchase. You choose the one that you like the best
Exactly.
or is most compatible.
Yeah. And you're comparing them in real world time,
Exactly.
not like your memory of this girl versus what you're dealing with right now with this girl
No.
and that kind of thing.
And I think a lot of guys literally end up with a certain girl because they're like fatigued.
Yeah.
They don't want to keep going through, one monogamous relationship after
Yeah.
another. And they literally just get worn out. They're like,
I don't want to start
I don't
over.
want to do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, because I went to like 2 days a week fast. Why is that?
Because you press the issue.
I did
You
not.
know, if they make it enticing enough. And maybe I was fatigued. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. You were going strong, buddy. Nice try.
That's funny. You're peaking.
No, I mean, I came in at a good time too because it was around the holidays,
Yes.
and so it was kind of like pretty quickly.
I'm listening.
Pretty quickly, it was like I was cooking Thanksgiving, and then
Yes.
we were doing Christmas. It was just kind of like,
You made it easy.
yeah,
And again, what we try to convey to girls, if you're pleasant,
yeah,
and I think what happens, and this is just, supposition, is girls, especially if they're younger, they're pleasant, they're kind,
Yeah.
and they get treated bad enough times, they stop that.
right,
So it kind of gets, what would you say? The pleasantness gets fucked right out of them.
right.
And that's just the way it is.
And you were the first date that I went on.
Yeah, a lot of this had to do with time.
Yeah, you were the. I mean, there was kind of a lot at play there, but
Everything
I got
can be.
very lucky.
And again, you're an only child with a strong family.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of variables. And
Yeah.
you've gone through a divorce, and I don't think you've ever said a word negative about your divorce or your ex-husband.
Yeah.
I mean, so it just depends on the people. Sometimes you just get lucky.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that I meant to lift up about you and just what you kind of offer your public is that, yes, you've been married, but the divorce wasn't terribly dramatic.
No.
You know?
No, and there was no infidelity involved. It was simply
Yeah.
a matter of like going in different directions. And I was running a business that was growing. There was a huge pain in the ass.
And you were literally never home.
I was never home, living at the gym.
Yeah.
Literally, like living at the gym.
Yeah.
And that's not conducive to having 3 or 4 children.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so things break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So,
true.
so that's, but it does give me, I know what it's like to be married.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of like enough experience because I know what it's like to live in the suburbs, the city, and in the country. You know,
Yeah.
so I've done them all for at least a decade.
You have. What do you think of all of your most volatile, of all the tweets? I mean, you've probably put up like 60,000, 70,000
Yeah, we're in
tweets.
that range.
What of the ones that you've put up that have kind of gone a little bit trigger happy? Like people in normie world have gotten a little, like, which ones can you think of that have been like extra volatile or trigger sensitive to people?
Well, even just this weekend,
Yeah.
and there was a wild card because there was a local guy, you know, that like picked it up.
So weird.
Yeah, it was something about, you know, I get asked a lot, like, how do I meet a girl with like low experience?
Yeah.
And these are young guys looking for a wife. They're not looking to corrupt people.
Yeah.
They truly are genuinely good-hearted guys who are like, you know, I don't want a girl who slept with 50 guys.
Right.
You know? And I said, first freshman, sophomore,
Yeah.
straight out of high school, girls that are marriage-minded or looking for their MRS degree at private colleges.
Yeah.
And it's a small group, but it's a group.
Yeah.
And they're looking for husband material. And a local guy who's like he like is a construction guy and he's a comedian. He like picked up on it and subtweeted about, I can't even remember. Oh, he wanted to fight me. Fight me in the Golden Corral parking lot. And I'm like, what?
What? Doesn't even make
I
sense.
know. I was like, okay, I guess. I don't know. You know, I was like, and I didn't want to mess with it because
But they
local
just
people,
kept
you're going to,
going with
yeah,
it. It was
exactly.
so
Yeah.
strange.
Over a few days. And like, so, you know, he has like 70, 80,000 people that follow him. And then luckily they all just kind of like churned on that one and
Yeah.
didn't mess with anything else. But the good thing is this is Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And he has a very distinct look. And
Yeah.
I'll see him again. And he works out at LA Fitness.
Yeah,
see
he
him.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
you know
fine.
he does. Of our podcast, and we're sitting at like 180 podcasts right now, which is pretty remarkable.
Yes.
Because we only started like
It flew by.
this year. I mean,
Yeah.
in the last, like I think 10 months. So it's a lot. It's a short amount of time and a lot of information out there. What do you think? Not the most popular, because I know what the most popular ones are. What have you been your kind of favorites or the ones that you feel like we handled best? And I ask this is kind of an unfair question because we literally like spit these podcasts out and then we completely forget what we just talked about.
Well, and I think guys that have a lot of information,
Yeah,
you know, you have to get it out so you can get fresh stuff in.
right.
You know what I
right.
mean? It's like a brain dump. So within hours, we won't remember what we dumped.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that it's not there still,
yeah,
but it's not occupying space. Does
Right.
that make sense? Number one is how to lock in a girl sexually.
that was good.
This
That's
is
a
one of those
good one.
things that guys know or they've done it and they don't realize they're doing it.
Yeah.
And basically locking a girl in on your dick and it violates the once a week in the beginning, but there's a reason here. So you bang a girl once, and a lot of guys, this is what it solves. I fucked this girl, and then I didn't talk to her for a month. Then I reached out to her and said, hey, I want to get together. And
Yeah.
she's like,
Fuck you.
fuck you. Because you made her anti-slut defense went off when you
Right.
didn't contact her.
Yeah,
So to lock a girl in, you have to invest on the front end sexually, is having sex 3-4 times within that first 7 days. And having sex 4 times in one day where you guys are still there isn't the same thing.
right.
You know, you have to have a bit of a break and, you know, she goes home or whatever. But and it seems to be the magic number is about 3, because before sex, all the momentum is in her corner.
Yeah.
And then after sex, a few times, they start changing, you know, the whole dynamic. And you'll know because, like, if you have sex with her one time, she's got a boyfriend, or she has buyer's remorse, and that's what you're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
Or she just wanted to have sex with you once. You'll know because you won't be able to get her back in.
Right.
You know, but if you want to lock her in, even as a fun guy, you need to have sex 3-4 times in that first 7 days. So it becomes just the normal thing. Then you can move her back to once a week.
Yeah.
You know, and the most common question I get is guys are like, I banged this girl and then I can't get her on the phone.
Right.
Or they didn't reach out to her soon enough.
Well, and once you do that, you'll know the shift happened because then she's reaching out and saying, hey, I'd love to fix you dinner. I'd love to cook for you. Or,
exactly.
hey, I've got this going. Would you, I'd love it if you wanted to go with me to this event. Or
and you talk to any player, and so many of these things are common knowledge with guys that have been through this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's so helpful. I wish I had known because we all do it. We all fumble girls.
Sure.
Because you don't know, but you accidentally stumble on the techniques.
Yeah.
You know, you see what works. Now, if you ask me, like, why does it work in their brains? I don't know, and I don't know why 3 seems to be the magic number, but it just works.
Yeah. Well, and like we've talked about, and forgive me if you just said this, but if you have sex with a girl at night and then she sleeps over and you have sex in the middle of the night or in the morning or whatever, that still counts as 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to
We got to be clear about
get
it.
her back in like the next day.
Send her home, bring her back the next day.
Yeah. Fuck her. And then like 2 days later, fuck her again. And then you're golden.
Then, because that's what you do.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you know, especially the first few months, years, every time you see her, you should bang her.
Yes.
That way there's never any confusion.
Yes. No matter what the activity, no matter what the date, you always.
That's where
fuck.
these guys mess up with, like, friends with benefits or
Yeah.
fuck buddies. For what, if he's fatigued, just don't let her come over.
Yeah.
If you can't close the deal, because it's going to confuse her.
Yeah.
And it's not her fault. It's your fault.
Right.
You know, for confusing her.
Right.
You know, she's like, well, we just went over and then we had dinner and it was really nice. And then I stayed over. I don't know, something weird is going on.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a weird vibe. He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't want to have sex, and
Yeah, we just hung out like boyfriend, girlfriend.
yeah.
You
And
know,
then it gets
yeah.
boring.
Yeah, now she wants
immediately
more.
gets bored.
She gets bored or she wants more.
That sucks.
That's true. That's
Seriously.
true. They will.
Yeah.
That's the good thing about having a partner
Yeah.
to bounce this stuff off of. Because there's a lot of things that I've gone, well, right off the bat, it's like, why do girls think this?
Yeah.
You know, or why do girls react this way? And she's able to tell me, and I'm like, I would have never, ever figured that out.
I love
on my own. What have I done? Can you think of a specific example? Constantly.
No, I can't.
Any podcast where she's talking more than me, it's
That's
her.
true.
We call it girl. What is it?
Girl brain.
Or girl world. Girl
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Pecking orders, like who's at the top, stay-at-home moms. You know, I mean, and then these are things that, as a guy, you're like, well, this isn't helping my dick get wet, but it helps you become a guy who just gets it.
If you understand where the girls' brains are,
Yeah.
it helps you just get it.
Yeah, you wonder why she's like losing her fucking mind and out about not getting an engagement ring. Then you realize that she has to have the engagement ring to have the wedding, to buy the house, to have the babies, which is the most important thing in
Yeah.
her life, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah. This went well.
I know. So I have to ask you my closing question that I ask everyone. This may be a kind of a weird one for you. What would you say is your best piece of dating advice, of relationship advice? Dating or relationship? Because you kind of are more like dating advice.
You know what?
Although you are very good at relationships.
Yeah, you know what I would say, is, and I think it helped more guys. I've had more guys reach out to me in the DMs or even like on the timeline.
Yeah.
In game, do less.
Yes.
Fewer words, 2/3. It's a commandment of Poon, and I'll put it up. It's, you know, give her 2/3 of everything she gives you. You said that's still too much.
That's still pretty high.
In game, doing less for men because we tend to be action takers,
Yes.
you'll actually probably hit it just right. Text her less, see her less, fewer words, no emojis, just less. Move slower, carry yourself slower, just like you have all the time in the world because you know what you're going to do. A lot of these things just less across the board. And I know it sounds, but once you start thinking about it, because you run these girls off by texting them all the time,
Right.
calling them all, less words. Let her talk. She'll think you are the most interesting man on earth, and she doesn't know shit about you.
And all she's done is talk.
All she's done, you spoke less.
Yeah, it's true.
But anything she gives you, you give her less than she gives. And girls chase it. It's just the way everybody's wired.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're
happy.
created to be your helper and your compliment, and so
Not the primary.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's one thing about game is people from the outside looking in feel it's abusive or what. Girls love this shit. They pursue it.
Yeah.
And it causes them to pursue.
Yeah.
So just do, reduce your texting, use fewer words.
Yeah.
And I can even look at a guy's text block where they'll send me messages and she'll have a block and he'll say 3 or 4 words.
Yeah.
She'll say a block, he'll say 3.
And her blocks will get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now she's locked in.
Yeah.
So
she's like, I'm going to get this motherfucker talking.
Exactly. It's funny. As opposed to the other way around.
Right.
Where they're dragging it out of them.
That's good advice. Do less.
Do less.
You're good at that.
I thought this whole thing went well.
I think so too. What is the best place to find you? Because you have books, you do consults, you do text support.
Yes.
We do a podcast. Like, what are your kind of favorite ways to interact with people?
If you go to FortWorthPlayboy.com and go to the more, am I correct? Because you built this for me. All my books, and you can request a consultation.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the home base for this stuff. Otherwise, follow me on Twitter, and I hate to use that word follow, but that way we stay connected.
It sounds a little cheesy.
I know. We stay connected and interact. I mean, that's how we know. And, I try to see every comment.
Yeah.
And most of the guys that I know do try to see every comment and react or, help along the way.
Yeah.
But again, just like CHATEAU HEARTISTE, because it was foundational for me, the article was one thing, the blog post was one thing, but in the comments is where all the guys, I think even Rollo, and don't hold me to that, because I don't want to speak for him, was in there also. I mean, there were some guys that have gone on and been like huge, making comments on his blog posts, and that's really what I really try to do with the tweeting is put it out there, provide some value, and then guys can help each other. Yeah. This is what they do. This is what I mean. That's where you learn. You're like, that works. And that's you start getting some damn good information and things that you can use on the ground because it's other guys on the ground. Yeah. Using this stuff and seeing what works and doesn't work.
And sometimes they even will just kind of interpret it better than maybe what we have.
Absolutely.
To where other people are understanding it a little bit better, or they've missed a nuance of the point or whatever. And that's what we love so much about Twitter specifically. Well, it's a conversation.
Yeah, it was just like a guy asked me, how do I find girls with low or no cock counts? And everybody's offering like Asia, Indonesia, just different places. Or like I said, there's going to be a small group with looking for the MRS degree. Yeah. Religious girls. And then one of the guys who's been around a long time jumped and said, tall girls. I was like,
yes.
I was like, yeah, I know that. But I never put it in that. I always say tall girls are lonely.
Yeah. We even have a podcast called that.
Their pool of men to pull from is smaller, but they also generally have less experience. Right. Because and especially when you get experience like early on, like high school and college, they're really awkward.
Oh,
you know what I mean? They kind of grow into it.
Yeah, because people think tall girls and they think only like the supermodels who are Now there are lots of tall girls
Yeah.
who are not getting any
Yeah.
attention.
And one of the guys, he's like 5'9", 200 pounds. He said, I only sleep with girls taller than me. And I close almost 100%.
I love that.
I mean, tall girls, low cock count, or low or no. So I was like, yeah, I have to add that in,
I love it.
Good.
Well, we have to close this because we have to go have sex now because this was just hot.
You're a sex flirt.
I say all the time that people are just lucky that I'm ever dressed at all whenever I'm in public.
I'm like, what are you doing? I'm working on one of my sex courses. And it's just like, it's all she's thinking about all day, which is, you want people that are enthusiastic about whatever specialty they're conveying.
We definitely are.
Yeah.
Definitely are. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you for allowing me to expose you to our community.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
It was the right time.
It was the right time. And you're the right person. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for sticking in with us. Why is my chair so much taller than yours?
You moved it up so we'd be equal height.
I did not.
You did.
I did not. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being just amazing people in our space. Look, we're right exactly at an hour. How crazy is
We
that?
do appreciate your time
Yeah.
that you've taken out of your day.
It's valuable.
It's valuable, and we hope that we gave you some value today and every day that we're there.
Which is every day.
Yeah.
24/7. We want you to win. Bye.